Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
A 28-year-old man is alleged to have stabbed his 66-year-old mother and stabbed and killed his 71-year-old stepfather after they asked him to turn off a video he was watching on the computer in their bedroom so that they could go to sleep. Now, according to police reports in Madison, Michigan, your 28-year-old Christopher McKinney attacked his parents after they asked him to turn off a video he was watching on their computer in their bedroom. Now, according to the police, this would appear to be an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of this incident, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I take a further critical examination of your Christopher McKinney, it's clear to me that he may possibly be one of these beta males that I talk about in The Man Crisis, because when I look at his behavior and his life situation, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about in The Man Crisis. Now, from the looks of things, it looks like to me your Christopher McKinney was one of these textbook beta males, because he probably came from what I see to be a single mother household, and a household where he probably was used to having authority over the home. And he had so much authority that he was actually able to break boundaries, because usually most people don't let their sons come into their rooms, which is their personal space. Usually when there is an authority figure in place, usually a parent's bedroom is usually considered to be an off-limits space, because this is the place where the authority figures usually stay, and usually grown adult children don't enter that personal space. But in this case, there were no boundaries, because usually when you have a single mother and usually a stepfather situation, there is no sense of boundaries, because there is no actual male authority. And that was another problem with this whole situation. It's clear for me is there was no real male authority, because no man who was running his home is going to have his grown son coming into his bedroom to use his computer to watch videos. No, a man is going to assert that his son go out here at 28 years old, find some employment, and go get his own computer or go get his own smartphone in order to go out here and watch whatever videos he wants to watch. So there has to be some sort of codependency going on in that home, because there were no boundaries in that home. And that's something that is oftentimes in homes when you have beta males in place. Wherever you see a beta male in place, usually the female is in charge, and usually the female does not establish hard boundaries with her son, because she wants to go out here and coddle and shelter the son, and not really want to cut the apron strings so that he can go out here to be a man. So instead of him learning interdependence, he learns codependence. And because he learns codependence, he does not really understand what boundaries are, and he does not understand what limitations are. And that was really shown with his behavior when he went out here and was sitting in their room watching videos on their computer. And those parents, after a long day, probably wanted to go to bed. And what happened was the boy, after being confronted by these authority figures who had not really asserted authority on him for years, this is one of the things that led to him triggering in the beta male anger that he had been simmering and boiling in, and then eventually exploding in the rage, where he participated in the extremes as related to the spectrum of violent behaviors. Now, when it comes down to a lot of beta males, they have addictions, And the internet itself is an addiction for a lot of these beta males. So, com- compound this with the lack of boundaries that these males have, and you have a recipe for disaster. Because, excuse me, a lot of these beta males, when they're out here, they again are addicted to the internet, and they'll sit there, and because they have obsessive compulsive behaviors, they'll sit there and watch videos for hours on end, not understanding the concept of time. And the reason why they don't understand the concept of time is because they really don't understand boundaries, because nobody has really set boundaries for them. And this can lead to these guys, whenever they're challenged, to wind up going out here and exploding in a rage. And that's probably what happened here with your Christopher McKinney. Is his parents didn't really understand how addictive the internet is for a lot of people out here, especially beta males. And when they wanted to go to sleep, they went over here to confront him. And then what happened was he wound up exploding in this rage, and then wound up participating in that spectrum of violent behaviors where he stabbed his mother, and then went out here and stabbed and killed his father. And I believe he probably stabbed and killed his father because in a lot of cases with these beta males, whenever another man challenges them, this can lead to them becoming even more violent, because they really do have an extreme contempt for male authority. Because when you have a beta male out here and he's got this rage, again, he really hates male authority, and he hates being challenged by male authority figures. And he'll go out here and do more harm to another male because he sees other males as on the same level as he is, because he sees all women as elevated higher than he is. And this is probably why he wound up stabbing and killing his stepfather, and stabbing his mother. But the whole thing is that this boy was really in an extremely dysfunctional and codependent relationship with his mother and his stepfather. And what was really troubling was his behaviors afterwards when he was arrested by police officers. He then decided to switch up and say that the police officers were racist, and he said that he would be able to get away with it because he was a white male. And the language he used really shows me, again, that he is a textbook beta male, because beta males, they oftentimes don't have a sense of responsibility. They don't have a sense of accountability, and they oftentimes look for ways to avoid the accountability and responsibility, and they oftentimes look for ways to make their behaviors be excused or justified, because in their minds they don't understand. They go out here and they think they are justified in doing whatever they're doing, and that just shows how deeply depraved a lot of these beta males are. And it also shows how dangerous these beta males are, because a lot of these males really don't understand the consequences of their actions, and they don't really understand how a small situation can turn into a really dangerous one, because in a lot of cases these guys have no critical thinking skills. They don't understand logic and reason, and they act impulsively on their feelings. And this is what probably happened here with Christopher McKinney, was because he was so addicted to the internet, when he was challenged by these male authority figures, he probably wound up snapping, acting on impulse, attacking his parents, and then wound up, his mother probably called the police on him, and because the police officers were black, he wanted to go and make it racial and try to find a way to justify his behavior, but there was no justification of his behavior. Clearly, this male really didn't understand his position in the home, and that happens to a lot of beta males, because when they are raised in households with single mothers and stepfathers or beta male fathers, they are oftentimes not understanding their position inside of the family unit. And that's because oftentimes the female will put the boy in the same position as the man, and because he's in the same position as the man and thinks that the man is not an authority figure. He thinks he has rights over the home. And this happens in a lot of homes with single mother households with sons. The boy thinks he is the man of the house, and when he gets challenged to that whole subordinate position or brought back to that subordinate position of a son, he winds up losing it and again exploding in that rage. And that's how it happens with a lot of these beta males, because they don't really understand their place inside of a family unit, and they don't understand that when you are living in your parents' home, you are to respect your parents' authority, you are to respect your parents' home, and that again has to do with the way they are raised in those dysfunctional homes, because they're not raised to understand leadership and authority at an early age. Now, when a boy is raised to understand leadership and authority, he understands that, this is not a good look to be in your parents' home on their computer watching videos in their bedroom. And going in their bedroom, their personal space, is not a place a grown man wants to be. Now, I understand a lot of guys out here are struggling due to unemployment and other issues, but most guys, they will understand, look, I can't go in my parents' home. I need to find a way to raise some money to go out here and get my own computer, and then start working on trying to find a job so I can go out here and get my own stuff. But this male probably was coddled and sheltered and not encouraged to go out here and try to get his own, and that's probably why he was just in his parents' home watching these videos, and that's just not healthy behavior at all. And when I look at this whole situation, I see another incident in America's ongoing man crisis, which seems to be getting worse with each passing day and each passing incident. Unfortunately, most in America are not really going out here to acknowledge America's man crisis. And the reason why they're not acknowledging America's man crisis is because in order to acknowledge all of these incidents as a pattern of behavior means America has to acknowledge that the way we raise children in this country doesn't work, and the way these mothers have been raising children has been failing these children for 2 to 3 generations. Moreover, most of these companies are going to have to acknowledge that we need to get back to a 2-parent family unit, and we need to get back to a healthy family unit, and they don't want to do that because they like the idea of having the woman in the workplace, because it depresses wages, and it also allows them to have more obedient workers. And they don't really want the woman to leave the workplace to go back to the home, because they receive a lot of benefits if the woman is in the workplace. But this incident, like many others, just shows us that a child really needs 2 parents, and it shows us what happens when a boy is just not raised with a good father in his life, and how a stepfather in some cases just can't do the job, because this male really did not see that stepfather as a male authority figure he respected or regarded, and he did not see that stepfather as somebody he respected, because if he saw that man as somebody he respected, when that man told him to turn off the videos, he would say, okay, I'm going to turn these videos off and I'm going to leave, because I know that these videos are going to be up on this website, and these videos will always be here, but I can come back to them the next day. Unfortunately, when you have a beta male, he doesn't understand that kind of logic, and because he's driven by his emotions and his addictions to things like the internet, he just feels threatened when somebody takes away his creature comforts that are medicating him with dopamine, and he wants to go back to that dopamine rush. So that's why he attacked his parents. And these are things that most people aren't really thinking about, because, again, they think it's an isolated incident, but this is just another incident in the man crisis that continues to go on across this country, and it's just not being acknowledged as the problem that is plaguing America. If we don't do something about this man crisis in this country, we're going to have a real serious problem sooner rather than later. Now, if you want to learn more about the America's ongoing man crisis and what's causing so many males out here to have lives that are dysfunctional, falling apart, and struggling, and leading to them participating in spectrum of violent behaviors and self-destructive behaviors like suicide, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to see me make more videos on men's issues, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Simping in the Workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere.